Welcome to Leadership, the secret sauce, where extraordinary coaches and leaders reveal what makes them exceptional. We're your hosts, Dave Lipski and Matt Dodson. Together, let's discover our guest's secret sauce. Today's episode is brought to you by Character Matters Coaching and Consulting. At Character Matters, we believe great leadership isn't just about results. It's about who you become along the way. From career transitions to team building, we help leaders unlock clarity, build resilience, and lead authentically. Because when character grows, impact follows. Visit charactermatterscoaching.com. Today's episode is supported completely unofficially by a community we deeply believe in, the International Coaching Federation's Coaching in Organizations. If you're building or leading an internal coaching program, this is where your people find their people. It's a space to swap real stories, sharpen your craft, and stay connected to what's emerging in our field. If you haven't joined yet, take a moment to sign up and plug into the conversations shaping the future of organizational coaching. Your community is waiting, and they're ready to learn with you. Go to coachingfederation.org/coaching-in-organizations-inquiry to get started.
All right. In today's episode, we're sitting down with Abhijit and to uncover his secret sauce of leadership. We're really excited just to hear his story. If you actually find him on LinkedIn, you'll notice he publishes a lot of his own content around what he's seeing in his work on a daily basis. So we're going to get into his story, the challenges that he sees, what he's learned along the way. So we hope you'll stick around. And he'll share some insights that he's had, and we know you won't want to miss it. Dave, who is our guest?
I wanted to welcome Abhijit, and we like to start off with a question, which is, what is your energy level on a scale from 1 to 10? 1 low, 10 high.
Yeah, I'd say 8.5 or so. It's Friday evening, really feeling upbeat, but I got some errands to run over the weekend. So I'm thinking about that, before I came into this podcast. But yeah, I'm really excited. And thank you both, for having me here.
We're excited to have you. Matt, where are you at?
I would say, I'd go with 8.5, or I may be pushing 9. Yeah, we have one more Snowmageddon this weekend, and then we probably won't see another one till March. So I'm very excited.
That's cool. Yeah, you guys are bringing me up from an 8 a little bit, so I appreciate that. We just got through it's a Friday morning here, and a beautiful sunny day, but frigid cold. Even my dog, looked outside and turned around. So Abhijit, I know you travel a bit, and when you are on a train, plane, or automobile, and somebody turns to you and says, "Hi, what do you do?" How do you describe it?
Well, it's a good one, Dave. And I think, my first go-to is I'm a coach, and then it brings up all these process in me. I'm like, is there a singular definition of coach? Yeah, or coaching for that matter? There's this joke that goes around here that as many coaches, as many definitions of coaching. And so then I feel that I have to add a rejoinder to it, which is like, well, I help leaders or organizations perform better. And specifically in leadership, my focus is on helping leaders make better decisions, because I feel that is what is leadership all about, making decisions. Sometimes, when there isn't, enough information, or when the clarity is low, and sometimes when the stakes are high. So yeah, that's what I typically say. But apart from that, I also add, when they have a fair understanding of what coaching is, then I also say that, I teach coaching for an ICF or International Coaching Federation Level 1 program. And I also, do some coaching research from time to time. So it's everything related to coaching. Yeah. Coaching, coach training, and coaching research.
That's excellent. I like the way you framed it with helping leaders make decisions, because it does seem to be at the center of so many of the leadership issues that come by, that I have a view to. Just a quick question, like everyone, has a turning point. When did you realize what your secret sauce was. Like, what is your secret sauce, and when did you realize you had it?
So I think, the turning point when it happened to me, I didn't realize that it was the turning point. It was many years later, in hindsight, I realized that, well, that was the turning point. So this goes back to like my college, like my uni days. So after, passing out of high school, and in India, you choose your education because you primarily want a job, because that keeps you safe and secure and stuff like that. And I came from a middle class family. I was the first one to be born in this country because my father and my mom, they kind of were refugees to this country because India was partitioned. I don't want to give a lesson on history, but yeah. So they're the first generations here. And then I was the first generation to be born in this country. So safety and security meant quite a bit for the family, and yeah, all of that. Now, the two things that probably would keep us safe, like from the perspective of a career or a job, was either you go to engineering and you will become like a software developer or whatever, something to do with that, or you become a doctor. And I couldn't become a doctor because I couldn't clear the entrance exams, but I did, secure myself a seat in engineering. I knew I didn't want to do it because I was always more interested in arts and stuff like that. And I kind of had sort of a debate, or my father may want to call it an argument, about going to engineering. But I finally said, okay, I'm going to go and see where life takes me. And I went there, and I was there for 3 years, but I was no good at it. I just couldn't clear all my exams and like move from one year to another year. I was just kind of stuck there. And so after having been stuck there for 3 years, and it was quite a grim period in my life, I was like, I need to make a decision to be or not to be, in the most Shakespearean way. And I decided that no, this is not who I want to be. This is not who I ever dreamt of being. So I quit. And for us it was a huge thing because there's a lot of investment that had already gone in, and there was a sunk cost fallacy of the sorts, like should I put in more until I recover what I have already invested. But I walked out. And I think after that I kind of moved into arts, then into leadership development, and then finally into coaching. And then when I came to coaching, all these conversations with different leaders and executives and CXOs, that's what I saw playing out. I mean, they were all like outwardly quite successful, like on paper, if you look at it, designation wise, if you look at it, very successful. But inside conversations, especially in coaching conversations, they'd say that they're not happy, they're not satisfied with what they're doing. Perhaps they want to do something different, and stuff like that. I'm like, oh my God, I mean, that's exactly where I was maybe 20 years back. And so that's when I realized that that was the turning point in my life, which I didn't realize at that point in time. But having heard all these conversations, and so my secret sauce, I don't know if I can call it a secret sauce, reminds me of Kung Fu Panda. And it's like, what's the secret ingredient in your noodle soup?
Yeah,
But
no
there's
one's ever
secret-
mentioned Kung Fu Panda and Shakespeare in our podcast yet. So I just want you to know that's unique to be kind of sandwiched together, which,
One more to go for the
Way to go.
trifecta.
Right. So thank you.
Uh-huh.
So I think that's where all of this happened. I mean, secret sauce, I don't know, but I think a lot of times we're living by borrowed aspirations, dreams, standards, and all of that, and there's just not. I mean, it's not leading us to anywhere, or it's leading us to somewhere, but that's not where we want to be. So I think being honest with myself, that's been what has been really helpful for me. And in my coaching conversations, that's what I also help leaders examine or evaluate, like how much with how much honesty are they looking at themselves, or how honest are they being with themselves. um, and I was talking about decision making, and I think the way we are, that has a huge impact on how we make decisions. I mean, how much honest we are being with ourselves.
Hmm.
So yeah, so that's kind of become my work of the sorts.
You know what? I imagine there's, for some of our listeners, a whole bunch of other family implications, other things that surround that decision to walk away from engineering. So I applaud you for that. That's bold.
It's courage.
Yeah, it takes tons of courage, right? And I think even some of our listeners would say, even to pursue coaching, no matter where they are, is a bold step, and an unknown. And then to have your own business is an unknown, and both of those take lots of courage. Abhijit, can you share like a moment when things, even in your corporate career, didn't go as planned, and maybe that sort of, I'm going to call it gut honesty. I know you didn't use that, but that sort of gut honesty, how did that sort of help you through those, maybe even those work type failures?
Yeah, and yeah, that's a brilliant question, Matt. And as you ask it, I'm trying to jog my memory and saying, yeah, what was that point of failure which was really big? And it's hard to point at one, because I also feel that at least until a certain point I was playing it very safe, right? I mean, okay, get the job, do what's expected of you, do a little bit extra, get that promotion, and then move on and so forth. So I was primarily into leadership development, and it was like designing leadership development experiences which would span over anywhere between, I don't know, 6 months to 18 months, and quite at a senior level. Yeah, and then also facilitating some of those workshops and stuff like that. uh, and then I think it was a pattern that was standing out for me, that every session that I would facilitate, it was I who was speaking. Yeah, mostly. uh, Maybe 70% of the time. I mean, there were discussions, I'm not denying that, but it felt like I was up there pretending to be, I figured it out all, I know it. And yeah, I mean, I'm just imparting knowledge to the other person, or to the bunch of leaders sitting there. And look, I still do leadership development. I'm not averse to it, but I think I was kind of noticing that that's not the way I want this to be. I wanted to have a much more deeper space, to do kind of, yeah, deeper work. And the coaching space, at least in a one-on-one coaching space, you have that opportunity of intimacy, right, where you're just being, like you said, being very, very honest. Yeah, gut honesty. And yeah, I mean, that's where transformational work happens. So I think, as a pattern, it stood out. And then when I had the opportunity, um, yeah, in this organization where they were starting an internal coaching program, and it was full-time internal coaching, which is quite rare even today in organizations. So I said, okay, I mean, considering I have the education around it and I have the experience, I mean, some experience around it, I'm going to like take a shot at it. So I think that was, yeah, it's not a big moment of failure, but it was something that was standing out for me for a while. And that's where I thought, yeah, I'd want to shift gears.
I've seen that actually a lot with, especially in learning and development, where someone's a facilitator, and rather than staying as a, as a sage on the stage, type of thing, as they say, like they all of a sudden want to enter into a conversation. And I think the coaching component of facilitation is, I think it's a specialty on its own, of really engaging the audience and challenging them to have the conversation rather than the sage on the stage. But if someone followed you for a week, where would they notice your secret sauce most? Now, I will say, for those of you that don't know Abhijit or don't follow him on LinkedIn, I recommend you publish a lot of articles, and it's usually like whatever he's thinking about or seeing in leaders. So I recommend that you read what he shares. But what would they notice about you and your secret sauce if on a typical week?
Yeah, so to bring that to life, whatever this secret sauce is, this honesty, I think people would be really bored if they followed me or shadowed me. Yeah, well, because there's tons of silences in these coaching conversations, and neither am I saying anything, neither is the leader saying anything. And I believe, like I said, there are many definitions of coaching. I believe that a coaching conversation, a true coaching conversation, is a conversation that the client or the leader needs to have with themselves. And I don't want to interfere. Yeah. So there's a lot of silence, there's a lot of pause, there's a lot of, I don't know, challenge in that silence where you really need to dive deep to come up with, yeah, whatever honest response you have, in the moment. So yeah, they'll see a lot of silence, they'll see a lot of pause, and they might be wondering, like, what's really happening here? Who gets paid for, staying silent, right? So, and also, my style is such that, I challenge my, clients and leaders quite a bit. Of course, with permission, and of course, after earning the right to challenge them. But yeah, it is not a conversation that would feel, if someone shadowing me is a very pleasant conversation. They might even experience a discomfort, because there is discomfort in the space. And I often say this, that coaching is a safe space, but it is not a space for comfort. It is a space for discomfort, because that is where I believe real growth happens. So yeah, I don't know, I can give them a pleasant experience with all these silences and challenging conversations that's happening. Yeah, but that's what they typically see me. But apart from that, a lot of reading and like parsing through the latest research that's coming, because yeah, and again, the way I kind of look at it is, in the last 10 years there's been a lot of coaching research, thankfully. Yeah, because I think before that there was just a little bit happening here and there, but it really picked up in the last 10 years. So I was also leading the ICF coaching community of practice, which was around coaching science, and we were bringing in the latest research around coaching to our community members. So I love to stay in touch with the latest research, so reading a bit around that and seeing what is relevant for my work that I do. So yeah, that see me read boring academic papers and articles.
Now, I'm going to ask this question because you and Dave both teach coaching at the level 1 level. And what is it that you think coaches need to stop doing and start doing at this present moment?
That's a good question. And just because you brought up education, I'd say this. I mean, in the education, or when, coaches are learning, how to coach, there's a lot of frameworks. There's a lot of, I don't know, tools, techniques, that are provided to them, because that is how education looks like, right? I mean, oh, there's this framework, oh, there's this, there's that, or try this, try that. And I tell my students, and, I, typically teach leaders in organizations who want to embed, coaching in their leadership style. And a lot of times, they don't go on to, become coaches, but they're just, using it as a part of their leadership repertoire. I tell them that, and I think, this is something that can be credited to, Carl Jung. He said that we'll learn everything and then forget it when you are in the presence of another human being. So that's what I tell them. Forget all the tools, forget all the techniques. The presence is what is going to, create that relationship, is going to create that space where another person will have the permission to show up as who they are. So I think that is what coaches need to stop doing. Yeah, like tools, techniques, frameworks, and just start being more present in the moment with the client, and just be almost one with them. But of course, there's an objective distance that is required if you really want to, challenge them a little bit, help them see what they're not seeing.
We had just a couple of episodes ago, one of our guests, actually, Mickey, talked about that presence was really kind of the unique, didn't call that necessarily his secret sauce, but that idea of being there and truly listening, the one-to-one relationship is really, it can't be replaced by any sort of bot or widget or anything like that, because it's very human.
That's a great. Go ahead, Abhijit. The question is like, what is the difference for you between the bot and the human?
Oh yeah, David, I think you know this, right? I mean, I was also the program chair for the Columbia Coaching Conference, that happened late last October, and our topic or theme, for the conference was hybrid intelligence. And so we explored this in quite some detail, right? That what is the difference? What is unique to humans, and what is, what AI possibly could do? So I would say the difference is, and in my mind, and the way I look at it, the difference is the relationship. You can never have a relationship with AI, right? I mean, as much as people are using it to be their therapists and whatnot, right? But it is a simulation of a relationship. It is not a relationship. So there is some symbolism to it, right? I mean, when I was like really a kid, I would name everything in my house, starting from my pencil box to my water mug and everything. I feel that's the thing with AI. I mean, it's a simulation, but you really cannot have a real relationship with objects, right? So I feel that's what is unique to human, because it's a relational space. It's a dialogic space. And so in academic terms, we can call it working alliance. That is what is unique to human beings, which I don't think, AI can provide, at least at this point in time. But I also feel, at a conceptual level, it'll always be a simulation. It is never going to be the real thing. So I think, that's the primary difference. And as a result of that, then, there is all these other things, presence, trust, and whatnot, like, how you listen to what's not being said, how you actually notice emotions. Although I did present a paper at that conference where how AI can help recognize emotions. But I think, all these things, stem from the relational aspect of, human beings. And that I feel is very unique to human beings.
Yeah. What's your bold idea about leadership that not everyone agrees with?
Matt, I have too many bold ideas. I put them on LinkedIn.
Oh, all right. Just give us one. Give us one that you're like, I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't share this as often.
Yeah, there are many, but the one, that has been standing out for me, and I made a post about it, I think, a couple of weeks back. I feel that leadership is going back to the fundamentals, what it all started with. And then it all got obscured, right? And then people started talking about strategy, this, that, vision, and all of that. But if you look at it, at the very foundation of leadership is trust and hope. A leader is someone, who people trust and who can generate hope in the people, who are following them. And I think in the recent years, and this is the new nomenclature, right? I mean, BC is before COVID, and I don't know, like after COVID, right? So after COVID, we've seen trust plummet. And if you would, hope, its cousin, is just, kind of, disappeared, right? So you look at any survey, and any institution for that matter, we're seeing that, people trust these institutions lesser and lesser and lesser. We've come to this place where we're thinking, people are trying to exploit us. The insurance company is, not trying to pay me, or the doctor is, suggesting a surgery, although I might not need one. Just, I'm just giving a couple of examples, but there's just, lack of trust. And when there's lack of trust, there isn't enough hope that, we are all working towards a better future, that is, and I want to be a part of that future. So I think, that's my, I don't know if it's bold, but I think, it's that's the fundamental, I think that leadership should start, thinking about as we are today. And hopefully, with hope, hopefully, this is going to improve. Uh, but I think it's not strategy, it's not technology adoption and all of these, jargony words, that we keep on hearing. It's about reestablishing the trust, and then, giving people hope to follow them towards a better future, that, we are co-creating a better future. And I think when it comes to that, coaching style, or at least, having coaching skills for a leader become really, really important, because there is that aspect of co-creation. It's not that I know it all and I'll tell you what to do, because times are uncertain and no one can know it all, right? So more leaders try to emulate that sort of a leadership style. I don't think, people are going to trust them anymore, and we're seeing that, right? So co-creation, I think, is at the heart of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a question with that regarding cultures, because you do so much work across cultures.
Yeah.
Like, to generate that trust and hope, both from a leader and a coach, do you find people, like the client has the same focus across cultures, or it's possibly some differences in how you generate that trust and hope?
David, thank you, for that question. I read your piece, the short piece that you wrote about, I think, Korean culture and coaching, some time back. And I was so very fascinated, because I do, coach across cultures. And yeah, I mean, my experience is that it works a little differently. And I've been trying to debate that the way the current coaching, the entire coaching thing is conceptualized, it is, yeah, got some, Western individualistic sort of strands embedded to the very concept of it. Just for example, that, the coaching is a very egalitarian space, and it's partnership. Now, what does partnership mean? It looks very different in different parts of the world. The definition of partnership is not the same. So in the East, partnership just is not like, it's not a symmetrical thing. Yeah, there is a symmetry, and that's not necessarily bad. Asymmetry can be, and when I say asymmetry in terms of power, in terms of position, in terms of hierarchy, and even if you look at the mythology of many Eastern cultures, uh, it is not power over, it is, power to. So when you have power, the preposition that you add to it actually determines, how that, power is being used, right? So yeah, so power to, do something, yeah, to do something, or to facilitate something, or to, let something happen, is not generally power over. So I think, there are expectations that, yeah, the coach will have, some power, and, that power could be stemming from more wisdom, more knowledge, more experience, and so on and so forth. But again, that's not necessarily a bad thing. And also, I feel there's this difference between high context cultures and low context cultures, right? A lot of uh, communication that happens in a coaching space in the East there's a lot implicit. Yeah. And it necessarily, again, is not a bad thing if it's implicit. It's how you make the implicit explicit. I think, that is what becomes the need for coaches to have that sort of attunement. And yeah, I mean, then, kind of lead the, I'm using the word lead, but I feel, coaches hold the process, right? So from that perspective, I'm seeing, how coaches then lead the conversation. It's very interesting, and I think I'm not able to justify the response to that question, because I, did submit a paper, like an academic paper, to one of the academic journals around this very topic. It's under review, and hopefully, if they, give it a pass, it'll be published. So David, I hope that, I'll be able to satiate your curiosity around that question with that paper. I'm going to send it to you whenever it's out. I mean, if it's out.
Yeah, that would be excellent, and I really appreciate it, and I really appreciate your response. And I think it's an area like we continue to explore, across coaching, and And I do, as you said, I think the foundational models are so Western based, but what we talk about is we need more mindfulness, which I feel is more Eastern based, and somewhere we need to meet in a better place in the middle there. So thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, if coaching needs to be global, I think, we need to infuse, these different philosophies and concepts and so on and so forth.
Yeah, and just reminds me of one of our other podcasts where the guy did a lot of coaching in China, and he talked about like talking about a third person, and that was the way to provide feedback. And I would say I certainly didn't get that in my level 1 training. Right, because it was very Western. And who would have known to use? I mean, that sort of, I think, gets into more metaphor, and I think that's sometimes really fascinating. I think Marsha Reynolds or Alyssa DeHart talks a lot about metaphor, and I think that those are the times that are really unique for clients that have never heard of that or never sort of thought about their leadership in that way.
Yeah. And Matt, I think, thank you for bringing that up. I mean, in ICF Converge, where I attended your session, as in one of the other sessions, I was sitting next to Marcia, and, she was talking about this reflective inquiry piece, which primarily is based on metaphors. And it was funny. Then, I met someone at the loo, and it was like, oh, fancy meeting you here. And then, that led to, that there are all these phrases, all these idioms, all these metaphors, that we use, which are so very rooted in the culture of, these countries or, the regions, that it's very hard or difficult to even, kind of translate these into another language, in these conversations, because it just doesn't hold the same, I don't know, essence. And it just feels different, right? So, and metaphors is like, what is a metaphor? Like, it's the shortest possible where truth can be held, right? I mean, that's a way to. So I think metaphors, and that's where I feel, cultural attunement is really important, especially for coaches who are coaching across cultures, because it might feel that, oh, they're resistant, or, oh, why wouldn't they say something explicitly, and it can start a process in the coach, and then there can be transference and counter transference and whatnot, right? So it could, I don't know, I mean, it could alter the outcomes of the engagement quite a bit. So but thank you for bringing that up.
Matt and I recently had a really just interesting conversation where we're looking at some of the models of coaching and, how that third person, and then like in the history of religious counseling, it's, what is your relationship with a higher power, whatever higher power you choose. And then how do you be the best self that you can be, and then improve your relationship, right? So that the triangulation, right, can be used both positively, but also, I think, to the stuff we're talking about, we need to be aware as coaches of, the influences, right? There's just, people are complex, and there's often a third voice that's not necessarily helpful, right? So positive and negative. I appreciate you sharing that.
Abhijit, if you had to design your ideal coach, what type of coach would you want? Like, describe that coach to me.
Yeah, I do have a coach, and I think every coach should have a coach, maybe even a therapist. Yeah, I'm gonna say that.
Drop another one. Yeah,
and a supervisor, right? Because at least the kind of work that I do mostly in internal coaching, I think it's a very, very complex form of coaching. Maybe complex right after trauma informed coaching, because you're part of the same system where you are coaching, and there can be too many waters to navigate over there, right? I mean, look at an external coach, they're not in the same building. Perhaps it's happening virtually, but in an internal coaching, you could be in the same office space, you just coached and you just walked out. Now what do you do? Like, do you like act as you don't know this person, and others are looking at you? Then what do? You go to the water cooler to grab a mug of water, and this person's manager or leader comes and says, oh, so how's it going? And what's the engagement all about? Like, oops. So I think, yeah, it's very tricky. So yeah, supervisor, I think, is also something, that every coach should start thinking about. But yeah, my ideal coach, I mean, the kind of coaching conversations I have with my coach, typically for 45 minutes. And I think combined, the two of us are speaking only for, I don't know, maybe 20-25 minutes or so. And the rest of the time, we are processing as the conversation progresses. And I think, that works for me, because I don't want to be pressured into responding immediately to a question. It would start, feeling more of an interrogation than an inquiry. Yeah. And then somewhere it would activate the performer in me, like, oh, I have to now, come up with a, I don't know, like a good enough response to this, where I sound wise or whatever. Yeah. So, yeah, I think that's my ideal coach, who kind of, allows me to process as, things are coming up for me. And what I've started noticing with my coach is that there is a lot that um, our body, kind of tells us. And to be honest, as a coach, I'm sometimes, not so good at it. I'm not a somatic coach, right? And uh, but my coaching experience with this coach is like, oh, so what's happening, and where is it happening? And that's, I think, grown my intelligence, my somatic intelligence about my own body, and started noticing things that I hadn't noticed earlier. So yeah, that's my ideal coach. I mean, gives me time to process, helps me tune into just not my cognitive intelligence, but my somatic intelligence, and also, of course, challenges me a little bit. Without that, it's no fun, I guess.
I just also want to point out, you would have been a very interesting engineer had you continued to pursue that, because you just cross so many lines in the engineering world that be like, oh, well, I've never gone there. So just so you know, I'm really glad you're a coach.
I'll take it. That's the best certificate I can ever have. No university would award it to me, but you do. I'll take it, Matt.
What are some resources or books that you recommend? Habits, podcasts? What do you really like to listen to, read?
Yeah. There are too many, and I feel that there's just so many. I think, it's almost become, again, some sort of a pressure for us to consume more. Um, in fact, it is so much, and that's what's binge watching, right? Like watching one episode after the other and stuff like that. And look, the Academy Awards nominations have come in, and I'm already starting to think in my mind, I'm like in my head, oh my God, I got to watch all of these, before they announce the awards. Otherwise, I wouldn't know, which movies, what, and stuff like that. So I think this is huge pressure to consume. And there's just no enough space to process, because we're not allowing all these learnings to integrate, because there's no calm. There's just this, like consume. So one of my pet peeves, okay, and no book, no podcast. I actually, journal. A lot of people, don't like it, but I journal on my phone in an app, and not like really writing by hand. But what it does allow me is, when I go to journal on that very day, it says, oh, 1 year back you made a journal entry, 2 years back on the same day you made a journal entry, or on the same date you made a journal entry. So I go and pretty often I read those, and it helps me just see like how far I have come, and what was my thought process like then. Not as a matter of rumination, but as a matter of reflection, or reflecting on what happened. And as we know, the more we exercise our muscles to reflect on something, our muscles to reflect in the moment, actually gets better, right? So that is one thing that I do. But I also feel that just having something outside of this is very, very helpful. Yeah, I mean, I like watching football, like European football, and I know that it's happening in America all over again. The World Cup this time, the first World Cup that I watched on television, that was the last time it happened in America, 1994. And I still remember Roberto Baggio missing that penalty shot. I'm like, how could he miss it, right? I mean, oh my God, yes, it was that. Yeah, but in terms of resources, yeah, I don't have a specific book. I read, quite a few books, but also, these dry academic, papers, as people call it. Like, how can you read it? It's so dry. I mean, there's no storytelling in it, but I can consume it, so I do. Yeah, but yeah, there's no particular that I think stands out for me.
Thanks, Dave. What's your
I actually, reflection on reflection. What's the do you mind sharing what's the app that you use for reflection?
Yeah, so this is known as My Diary. And because, David, you're talking about reflection on reflection, I don't know if you know, but in India, there's this god which is revered quite a bit. His name is Shiva, and he has this third eye. So I call this reflection on reflection, opening the third eye.
I love that. And actually, my reflection is the importance of the work that we do as coaches to reflect, and a little bit of the, like, I think there needs to be more in the coaching relationship as well, like helping our clients do it. And I really appreciate your focus on that. And then the other part is, I really want to go back to what you said in the beginning, which is, the ability to be honest with ourselves and learn from our decisions. And I think as a coach, like, being able to help people reflect on that and then make better choices when we're not in the room is such a powerful, capability that we can leave our clients with. So thank you for sharing that.
I think mine, just along that lines of reflection, if I'm going to ask my client to walk through something that's uncomfortable, or navigate some of, like, the uncertainty, I think I need to have done that in some fashion with myself. I think that's almost like quieting that inner disturbance, and not respond with, more doom scrolling or things like that. And I think that's what, may have started really early on when, hey, I don't like what I'm doing in university, to be willing to say, hey, listen, I'm quiet enough to hear that I don't like it. Now, it may have taken a few years, but we didn't get here overnight. So I think that was my just reflection. It's I think it's really important. Our clients need us to do that too.
Yeah, no, Matt, I totally agree. I think, the way I sum it up is, we can't take our clients where we have not been to. Yeah. And I know in the coaching world, people think that, oh, I don't need to be in a certain place to take my client there, but I would contradict it. It's just not psychologically, emotionally possible to take your client where you've never been to. I mean, I believe that. And so, yeah.
Abhijit, what's the best way for people to get a hold of you?
I'd say LinkedIn. The stuff, that you mentioned, somewhere in the middle of our conversation. I mean, pretty much everything that I create, produce, or talk about, even some of my opinions, if you will, it's all there. My contact information and everything is all there. So that's the one-stop shop.
Thanks. Dave?
I wanted to thank you so much. And I'm so glad we have a chance to spend time together. And now it's taken a bit to do this, and I'm hoping we could do it more often. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. If you are a listener and you want to meet Abhijit, you don't have to meet him in the Lou. You can meet him outside that at the ICF conference in October in Washington, D.C. I'm assuming that you're going to be there. Are there any other conferences stateside that you'll be at?
Yeah, I mean, nothing's in my calendar right now, but who knows? I will sign up perhaps.
Yeah. All right. So just encourage you to take a look at his LinkedIn page, follow him, connect with him. And so we really appreciate your time. And a special thanks again to our sponsor, Character Matters Coaching and Consulting. Have a great day.
That's a wrap on today's episode. Big thanks to our sponsor, Character Matters Coaching and Consulting. If you're ready to unlock your leadership potential and make the impact you're meant to make, visit charactermatterscoaching.com and connect with Matt about transforming your team or organization. If this conversation sparks something for you, share it with a fellow leader who needs to hear it. And don't forget, all of today's resources are waiting for you in the show notes. Until next time, keep discovering your secret sauce.